I was. It wasn't worth an interruption. I didn't intend. I was just saying, am I crazy?
About that, like, don't feed the duck bush.
Well,
Should look like they're.
feeding the bread is really bad for them. It can kill them. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the monthly public hearing session of the Annapolis Historic Preservation Commission. I'm Will Scott, the chair, and since we have a quorum present, I'm going to ask the recording secretary to take the roll, and we'll begin our work.
Dr. Scott?
Present.
Mr. Williams?
Present.
Ms. Bannon?
Present.
Mr. Cummins?
Present.
Ms. Golder?
Present.
And Mr. Groft?
Present.
Okay, very good. Are there any staff announcements before we take up the approval of minutes?
Really minor staff announcements, but I think that everyone can see that the City Dock project is progressing. And we've recently gotten quite a few requests for temporary banners and different things that are being placed on the fence there. We're keeping up with it. It's a little scattershot. I'm not going to say that there's a design that governs everything. I think it's much more piecemeal, but it's also very temporary. So I just want to mention that staff is keeping up as well as we can, but it's like it's coming out of a cannon.
Well, that's thank you for sharing that, because you know that we might be questioned by fellow citizens.
Well,
wonder
and
what's happening, and then we can direct them to you.
Well, which is fine. And I also want to say, though, that I think we're reaching a saturation level, and we may be at a point where there's enough signage so that no one sees any of it, which is always the problem with clutter.
Well,
So there we go.
good that you're on top of it. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the approval of draft minutes, and because there have been some staffing changes and other issues, we've delayed approving quite a few going back to January. But one of our members is always very careful in reading all the materials, so I'm going to ask that he make a motion to work through these chronologically.
My only comment was there was a spelling error on March 10th, but all others look good to me. So I wanted to remove that one from I guess a group.
Okay, so you're moving to
At least in my
approve.
opinion.
You're moving to approve all except for
March 10th,
March 10th?
and it was just a spelling error on my name, so it's not a big deal. It should be good, but for the record.
Is there a second to the approval of those minutes?
Second them.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And we have one set of the minutes with a recommended correction. Is there a motion to approve those minutes with a correction?
Approve March 10th minutes with the correction to my last name spelling.
Second to that?
I'll second it.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Well, good. Let's see if we can keep up that smooth pace. So, Mr. Tower, are there any new violations or active violations that you want to bring us up to date on?
Well, nothing truly significant. St. John's had a ready, shoot, aim with their Carroll House, bit surprising, with a known contractor. And I'll just describe it. It was the replacement of slate and also copper gutters, and then snow guards or snowbirds. And we asked for the copper gutters to match the snowbirds in copper, because they were putting one the snowbirds were going to be galvanized, and the gutters were going to be copper. Fick Brothers is a trusted contractor, and the fingers were pointed in both directions as to who was responsible for not being responsible.
Was it resolved to your satisfaction?
We haven't gotten an application yet, but I mean, I trust them. I have a Fick Brothers illustration of, or let's say mock-up of 32 Maryland Avenue's mansard interlocking curved roof in my office. So they're certainly capable. I would have preferred being able to help them choose a slate that matches the existing slate. And for all of you who don't know that, that building was moved from Main Street in the 1950s, saved from demolition, taken up Main Street, and then I guess around the circle, down College Avenue, down King George Street, and then put in its place where it sits now. So that was 76 years ago, and most of the majority of that house was built in the 18th century.
And if anybody is not familiar with what Mr. Tower just described, it's worth just Googling it, because it's pretty amazing to see the house going up Main Street.
Well, and we've got a picture of that in our office, but that was early preservation,
Yeah.
and it happened more than once.
Yeah. Okay. We don't have any items on our agenda tonight that are suitable for the consent docket, so we'll move to our first item of business, 1 Dock Street. Alexandra King is proposing some duck feeding apparatus.
And can I ask why it's not appropriate for consent docket? There's no public comment opposing it.
Okay. I thought maybe we should.
You certainly can.
How many people are here to speak to that?
Just need to speak.
Okay. I think it would be best then, since the applicant is present, that she come and tell us briefly what she's proposing, and then we can act immediately after that if we're all agreeable. Please.
Hello. Good evening.
Please have a seat.
Okay.
These microphones are all live all the time, unless you know how to silence them.
I don't. Can you hear me? Good.
Yes. Before you say more, please, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
Thank you. Now, please introduce yourself and say as you wish.
Good evening. My name is Allie King. I'm the founder of Quack Snack Station. I've lived in Annapolis my entire life. I grew up around our waterfront. I currently work downtown at the Chop Tank. Quack Snack Station started from something simple. Like many people in Annapolis, I grew up seeing families feed ducks bread around City Dock and our waterfront. It's one of those small experiences that creates lasting memories and helps people to connect with nature. But as I got older, I did learn that bread and crackers, although given with good intentions, are actually very harmful for ducks in our waterways. My goal is not to stop people from feeding ducks. It's to give a safer alternative while keeping that experience fun, educational, and accessible. Each station combines a duck food dispenser and seasonal planter into a single feature designed just for City Dock. The station requires no electricity, no excavation, or permanent modifications to city property, and they can be moved whenever necessary. My hope is that this is going to encourage environmental stewardship, create positive experiences for residents and visitors alike, and helps future generations make the same kind of memories on the waterfront that so many of us grew up with. I love this city, and this project is my way of giving back something to a community that means a lot to me. Thank you for your time.
Have you read the staff report?
I have.
And you note the requirements for removal and maintenance,
I
et
do.
cetera, et cetera.
Yep, and that is not a problem at all. I do have a partnership with Homestead Gardens, which I'm very excited about. They are supplying everything for me. They plan to seasonally upkeep the flowers, so 4 times a year. And if I ever need to move anything out, that can be done very easily and quickly.
Great. Do any other commissioners have questions? Please.
I am not against this, first of all, but I do have a question about cleanliness. Because
Absolutely.
the ducks themselves, as nice as they are, for some reason, they don't always clean up after themselves.
Absolutely. I understand that concern. My goal, so feeding ducks is already happening, whether we like it or not. So this is just going to provide a safer and cleaner alternative. I plan to clean up the stations twice daily. If there is any litter or anything surrounding them, I committed to that. So that won't be a problem. Yeah, and the duck food does sink down eventually into the water for the crabs to eat. So it's not like there's anything laying on the top of the water. That's not a concern of mine.
I was thinking more of the biological waste.
Yeah, I do understand that. But like I said, the duck feeding is already happening. The ducks are already here.
I understand. But poop clean, it's going to be clean.
Thank you.
Question, yes.
Is there an opportunity to have any kind of text or a QR code where somebody could read about, that this might be actually healthier than throwing your French fries at the ducks?
Absolutely. So a huge part of this project is the educational side of it. I would love to host field trips, do all of that good stuff, teach the future generations how to feed them correctly. On the machine itself, it does have, it lists all the reasons why this is better. There is also a QR code on the side of the machine that takes them to my website, which has lots of links explaining all of that stuff.
Great.
Thank
That's
you.
great. Any other questions? If not, I'll accept a motion.
I would like to make a motion to approve.
Is there a second to that motion?
I would like to quack. Second. Quack my approval.
This is all being recorded for posterity.
I'm a
We should
very
all
serious
quack.
person.
Okay, a motion has been made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for your
Thank you
time.
for the worthwhile project.
Thank you for your time. I'm excited to move this forward.
Are those all your friends that you brought with you?
Yeah, there's
Oh, good. Nice friends.
my supporters and my family.
All right. Second item on our agenda is 89 East Street, an appeal of an administrative decision denying approval for a full replacement of the existing metal roof at that address. So will the applicant and any representatives come forward?
Absolutely. My wife is passing out a package of photos for each member of the commission.
Thank you. Sir, do you have any of the contractors or any of the other people that are going to be working with you presently?
We do not.
Okay.
We have consulted 3 contractors that I'll talk about, but we have not entered into a contract because it had not been approved yet.
Okay. If you would just both introduce yourselves for the record.
Absolutely. I'm Daniel Greenwood.
I'm Kimberly Greenwood.
Oh,
Thank you.
Welcome. Now, if you would both raise your right hand, do you pledge to the best of your knowledge, all the testimony you give is true and correct?
I do.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay. Before we begin, I just want to ask you a couple of more or less administrative things.
Perfect.
So you've been in consultation with the staff.
Yes.
You've read their report.
Yes. We read their determination, and then last night at 6 o'clock, John sent a package to all of you and us that we received for the first time.
Okay, that's good to know. Is the material that you just handed out, is that part of what was already submitted and transmitted to us by the staff?
I am not familiar what the staff transmitted to you. That was not
There is new
shared.
material.
New material?
We shared that information with John and his team in the January, February timeframe of this year, so they've had that for 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, because this does look
A
familiar.
lot of these are on the
Yeah.
application,
Yeah.
too.
Okay, well then, before you begin your presentation, I want to just, I'm speaking for myself, I'm not speaking in mass or representative of all the the other commissioners. When the staff makes such a clear recommendation, I mean, their report is very much to the point and it's very clear. I think it means that when you come to appeal, I would hope that you would concentrate on specifically what is it in their report that you're, almost point by point. They say that you're in violation of this part of our guidelines. Why do you disagree with that? And take it from there, because it's not like you have to reapply because you're appealing.
Right.
Okay? So that, I think, is better for all of us.
Perfect. And I think I do that in my discussion. I am not a historical guideline expert, so I can't cite specific city code. I know John had some of those in his thing, but what I'm going to address are the two main points that John used to reach his determination, which is the claim that the roof is serviceable and that Acromax is the appropriate solution, and then the historical justification for that. And I think we'll raise both those points.
Very much to the point.
Okay.
So please
Great.
begin.
Just for a little context at the start, my wife and I bought this house about 18 months ago. And we did it because of our love for Annapolis. As a family, for both our families, this is a very important town to us. My father came to Annapolis in 1946, was class of 1950 at the Naval Academy. My brother was a class of 1988. I was the class of 1992. Her brother was the class of 1993. And our son is just finished the plebe year in the class of 2029. So when we bought the house, it was an Airbnb. It had been on the Airbnb market for years. We took it off it. We live in the house. It's our residence, and we plan to own it for the rest of our lives. So our concern and appeal is around preserving it historically. It's for no other purpose than that. And I think that this determination just has errors in it that is going to undermine the historical viability of it. So the first one is the serviceability of the roof. John and his team came to our house and did a visit one time with us present. They came inside the house. They looked at the roof from the street, but they did not physically inspect the roof. Similarly, when he came with the Acromax owner, which I will talk about in a minute, they flew a drone. They did not let us know they were coming. They didn't ask for access to the roof. There was no physical inspection of the roof. So anyone who has ever worked with Acromax or read about it online knows that the primary thing that Acromax needs to be utilized is a serviceable, stable surface for it to be applied to. We consulted 3 roofers in downtown Annapolis that I think you all are familiar with: Fitcher, Rough Roof, and Benchmark. You all will know Rough Roofers because they've restored very historical residences like the roof on the Packett House. All 3 of them said our roof was not a candidate for Acromax. They said it was unserviceable. The rust had penetrated from the surface down through the metal to the substrate or the underneath. And on page 1, you have 2 pictures of that where they actually went up on the roof, peeled up sheets of metal to look at it, and took pictures of the substrate corrosion. When Acromax is applied on top of such corrosion, it just allows the oxidation to continue year over year, and it gets worse until the point of failure. Whether that just happens because panels shift or because of a heavy snowstorm, when it happens, it's too late. The Acromax can't prevent the damage to the historical property underneath. So they thought that just based on the condition of the metal and the rust penetrating the substrate, that it was not a candidate. All 3 roofers said that they would not, while they can apply the Acromax, they were not willing to do the work because they couldn't guarantee it and they didn't want to be liable. I think that's telling that the company that did the Packett House would not do 89 East with Acromax. So that's one point.
Excuse me. Just so you know what I'm thinking, it would be more compelling if one of them were present or had issued a written assessment with verifying that that was their professional opinion.
Sure.
Yeah, and I don't want to interrupt, but I thought Fichtner said it was a possibility. At least that's what they said to me.
He recommended against it. He gave us a price quote.
I'm just saying that's what he said to me. I know Fichtner. He knows the process. He knows the product.
Right.
He knows efficacy.
He was.
Gentlemen,
Had a discussion with you.
gentlemen, this is what I feared. We have an expert who has established his credibility in working with us over the years. I'm not saying that you're disagreeing with one another. Your opinions are different. You need to, for me at least, to have more documentation from an expert See, you're giving me secondhand information, and I'm sure you're giving it to me straight.
So the pictures that I'm providing you came from Rough Roofers.
Oh, well.
We weren't under contract with them. We could have them provide something in writing. Again, this is our first time. We are just homeowners and taxpayers trying to get resolution to protect the property. And I think that the photographic evidence speaks for itself and as I lay it out. But if we want to get, these are, what you're saying is administrative in nature, just it's kind of an I got you moment instead of listening to the totality of what we're going to present.
I'm going to listen to the totality.
If it's any edification, I personally don't feel that I need somebody else here to verify what we have, if that helps.
It does help. It does help. It helps guide the applicant in how they address the rest of their testimony. And it would be helpful for the staff and the applicant not to get into a back and forth until the applicant's
absolutely.
finished.
And John and his team have
Yeah.
been great coming over and great to talk to through the whole process.
Good.
We're just passionate about this because of the value of the home and the historic nature of it.
Yep.
And to your point about the experts, we're happy, again, not knowing this process, we are happy to have Benchmark, Rough, any of them provide something in writing if that is helpful.
We'll see.
I believe it would be helpful.
Yeah.
Page 2 shows another example of the type of corrosion that is challenged according to the roofers, and that is when the corrosion gets so extensive, it pushes the rivets or nails out of the panels of the roof. That has started happening on ours. There is no amount of surface preparation, grinding, sandblasting, or the type that can deal with this level of corrosion or the substrate corrosion in order to make the surface, appropriate for Acromax. And that was the concern of theirs as well. We think those photos are very compelling. And then third, which is, just kind of a relating or supporting document, on both the front and back of the house, the gutters, the fasteners that attach the gutters to the metal, the rust has deteriorated to the point that the gutters have broken away and are now tilting, and the water flows in the opposite direction because of the rust and corrosion. So you've got not only a problem with the rust on the roof, but the supporting architecture or the gutter water system around it. So for those reasons, the 3 roofers, had grave concerns about Acromax as the solution for this. The second point is we now have water damage inside our house. When John came over in November, we showed him what we thought was the start of water damage in the 3rd floor under the ceiling. It has gotten worse in the last 5 months, and I have provided on page 5 and 6 for you, 4, 5, and 6, 3 sets of before and after photos of different walls in our upstairs bedroom, which is directly below the roof, that shows sign of water damage. That means water has penetrated the existing roof, has soaked through the historic material of the house, and it is now causing the paint to peel and blister on the ceiling by the rear dormer window, and it's also showing water stains coming down the wall on the other side of the room on the interior wall of the house. And those stains are noticeable because of the tannins from the wood and the rust from the metal that make them dark as they come down. Any research you do online says that once there has been water penetration, Acromax is absolutely not the solution. It traps that water and moisture in. It facilitates rust or rot of the materials underneath it. It contributes to the growth of mold. And now we create a health concern for my family because we potentially have black mold behind the plaster walls in the house where this water damage is being exhibited. So that's a grave concern. And just to put, a vapor-proof Acromax cover on it will lock that in and exacerbate the rot and damage. During the course of this, those are the 2 main points for why we think the substrate is not serviceable and why the roofers said they could not do the preparatory work required on the roof without damaging it to the point of being unserviceable. During the course of the roof, of that process, we started to uncover historical inaccuracies in the argument, and I'd just like to bring a couple of them up because they relate directly to our home, but also to the application of historical guidelines for all homeowners in our neighborhood, if I could. The roofers uncovered that the original roof on our house was a cedar shake roof. It wasn't a metal roof. It was changed sometime between being built in 1875 and 1885 from cedar to metal. And I have pictures of the cedar shake shingles on 7, 8, and 9. So to be historically accurate, it should be a cedar shake roof. John showed you all in his package the Sanborn fire insurance map. And if you look at that map, in 1885, there's 23 dwellings in the chip that he showed you. 20 of the 23 have cedar shake single roofs. Only 3 had been converted to metal at that point, and it's logical that ours was one of them because George Taylor was a wealthy merchant and he had the means to lower his insurance premiums by putting the metal roof on it. And that's in fact what he did. That roof was then again changed over in the mid-20th century to the 3rd roof that has been on this house. That was confirmed by all 3 of the roofers that this roof was put on sometime in the 50s. They could see how the metal was wrapped around the window sills and the construction. It was a mid-20th century job. We are now putting Acromax on a failing mid-20th century metal roof and saying we're doing it for historical purposes. That just defies logic when the original roof was a cedar shake roof. And what's equally frustrating about that is the inconsistency in our neighborhood. There are 4 or 5 homes within 50 yards of ours that John Tower and the team, I don't say him pejoratively, but the HPC staff have approved for metal roofs. Ours was denied. They are all on the historic registry. They are all listed just as ours were in the Sanborn fire insurance map chip that he showed. John goes to great extent to talk about the Galilean Boys Home in his justification because we're right next door to it. We're 89, it's 91. 93, right next door to the Galilean Boys Home, was approved for a metal roof, and they put an Englert metal roof on, not even a standing seam turn-coated metal roof on that. Another example I'd like to point out is 31 Pinckney, which is a very historic street, as you all know, where the dock workers lived. 31 Pinckney was built the same year our house was. It was built in 1875, 1876 timeframe. It was approved with a new metal roof by John in 2021. I took a picture out of their application package. In their entire application package, they only had 1 photo. I put that photo, and it is on page, I believe, 10 of your package, so you could compare page 10, you could compare 31 Pinckney versus the photos of ours, and then there's more photos of ours on pages 17 through 31 to show the extent of the damage on our house. It's just hard as a taxpayer and an owner and a member of this community to understand why there can be so much inconsistency and why historical justification around the Galilean Boys Home and the value of the house can disregard the actual history, cedar shake shingles, allow other people to apply new metal roofs, but then we are going to get hit with what I would call a preservation tax. So a new roof, if we put on a new 50-year metal standing seam turn-coated roof or a new cedar shake roof, would cost about $30,000. Acromax is only guaranteed for 5 to 7 years, and then you have to redo it. And that's right off of their website and anything you look at online. We were quoted $30,000 by Fitcher to do the Acromax job, or $29,000 and change. Over the course of a 50-year roof, that is going to be a preservation tax of $250,000 on my family to preserve a non-historic metal roof that was put on in the mid-20th century and isn't even the original silhouette of the house at 89 East Street. So I'll stop there. I know that's a lot, and I've thrown it at you. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. I have more, but I think I'll cut it off there just because those are the key points.
You were very clear in your presentation. I appreciate that, always. I will say, just for information, the ordinance and our guidelines do not allow us to consider cost in making our determinations. But
Consider
I do,
what?
They do
Oh,
not.
right, okay.
Yeah,
I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I've been fighting a cold, and I just put a cough drop in my mouth. I'm being a little rude. I apologize. Okay, but that was a very clear presentation. I appreciate that. Are there any questions of the speaker?
Why is a standing seam roof wrong? John?
What do you mean wrong?
Well, they want to put a new standing seam roof on their home.
So we're trying to preserve the turn-coated roof that is in place. It was mentioned that a turn-coated roof could be put in place. Turn-coated material is no longer manufactured, and it hasn't been for 25 years.
Well,
So
can I-
there is a problem with saying that you can authentically recreate this. What will come are machined panels. This is the way it's done these days. And what you end up with is a very regular sort of machined look to the roof. Now, I'll go further. The different roofs that were replaced on East Street, your neighbors, each one a disaster. Each one. I had a disabled veteran who started without approval and ended up with the wrong material and a ridge cap. Did I ask him to take it off? I didn't. But that was long roofing. It was a problem. So let me see. On the other side of the Galilean, that was another, I got there, the metal roof had already been torn off. And so we replaced it with a metal roof. That didn't end well either. So whenever you take something off and you try to replace it, you also have the possibility of not achieving the original. And I know that Fichtner can do a good job with the Englert and new materials. I know that Ruff basically only does roofs that are new. They're not interested in Acromax, they never were. And Justin wants to do a new roof, and I know that because I spoke to him about it. I've spoken to all these guys.
Work with, if you tell, Ruff says they hand turn it on site.
So they say they hand turn it, and then I see their little machines come out and they go up the line and they fold it with the machine. And then there's also a problem at the ridge because it's very difficult to actually fold the ridge. And I think that Ruff Roofers would be the first to tell you because they've demonstrated it to me many times. So it's not an equivalent, it's similar. And that is why I'm pushing for preservation here. It's similar, but it's not an equivalent.
And if I may, because I want to touch on something here. If I understand correctly, hypothetical, let's say that if the commission can come to a consensus that they're open to a replacement, if I understand correctly, you're willing to do whatever requirement that, John says to replace it, as long as you can replace it.
100%.
And
we just want a new roof so that we can prevent water damage and preserve the structure underneath.
We'll
And-
work step by step.
I'm with you.
I don't
And
know
I
the
think,
process,
I
but-
think the other important note, John, is I think we don't have any control over enforcement. So I think it's our prerogative to make sure that if we were ever to make a recommendation or an approval, that we're explicit about how it should be done and encourage you to be as explicit and detailed. But if something doesn't get executed on, that's not in our purview. And I don't know that it's appropriate for that to be a part of our discussion because that can be enforced. Am
Well,
I wrong on that?
What I'm really saying is what you have there is something that is part of the character of the house. This is,
Well, in a hypothetical situation, if we talked about a replacement and you guys came to terms on how to do it, enforcement's not in our purview. Is it fair to have enforcement?
oversight is, and then enforcement does come to me, not you.
But you would have the ability, you have the power and authority to enforce and act upon those who do not
There
follow through.
is
Is that correct?
nothing more difficult than correcting a roof that has been installed with issues. And once the roof is there and you have the issues, it's very hard to undo them.
You have the ability to enforce action, fine, require
But
replacement
does that
again.
give us preservation?
But if this was decided, I just want to make sure that we understand that you have the ability to say this was done wrong, you need to go spend another $30,000 and do it right. That is something that's possible under your jurisdiction.
It's possible.
Well, and that's the important-
It's to be avoided.
If I could say one thing.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
But I would just want to remind all the commissioners that there is an unauthorized wooden trash enclosure across from the Pecah House. It's been there for a number of years. The city has every right to remove it, as far as I can tell. It's not been removed.
But I don't think it's appropriate for us to make decisions based on whether or not another department in the city does their job. For whatever reason, they may or may not. And that, again, we haven't even gotten to discussion whether or not a roof replacement should happen. But if we got there, I don't know that it's appropriate for us to reject that due
Well, that's
to
something
due
we
to
can
a
undertake.
fear of a lack
We
of
can
enforcement.
discuss that during the discussion period after we've heard more information.
Would it be appropriate to ask for a sample that would perhaps meet our approval?
I didn't bring a sample.
I'm saying if the roofer says he can make it the traditional way, then I think having the staff review the sample to make sure it's historic. Slapping some goo on the top of a roof doesn't sound historic to me.
And it's slapping goo on top of a 1950 roof, not a mid-19th century roof.
Well, this is, and it's in the staff report, this is the Secretary of the Interior standard. This is on Thomas Point Lighthouse. This is on the house next door, the Galilean Hall. It's all over Annapolis. If you do an aerial view of Annapolis, it's everywhere. How does it look? It doesn't add a demonstrable thickness. It's simply a coating.
And I go back to our point, though, it all depends on an individual case-by-case basis on the condition of the existing roof, and our roof is in horrible condition.
So I did go out the window and look at your roof. You forgot, but I did.
You put your head out, and
No, I
from
looked
the
at it.
dormer, you
Right.
couldn't.
It's all right. We can see pictures here, and we don't want to.
And I'm going to say it. So this is all the result of neglect. However,
In their defense, they've owned it for less than 2
right.
years.
However, they're newer owners, but this would be a win for demolition by neglect. That's the way I see it.
John, do you want to make a more formal presentation based on your staff report? Or is this satisfactory to you in terms of getting your point of view fully out in the open for everyone?
What would you like me to do? Sorry.
Normally, after we have the applicant make a
I'll wait.
presentation.
I'll wait.
Then, okay, so
Right.
you do want to say more?
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
Look, this is important.
Yeah.
This house has only so much fabric that isn't behind another surface.
Yeah.
Its windows are behind storm windows.
I understand that, but
Its brick
procedurally,
is behind paint.
we're getting into a point where the applicant is making their statement, you're responding to their statement. Right now, what I'd like to do is get us a little bit more back on track. Does any commissioner want to ask a question of the applicant? And then I'm going to ask a question of our attorney.
Questions?
Please.
I was doing a little reading last night on turn roofing because I wasn't familiar with that myself. And as I understand it, and please correct me if this information is wrong, but there is not an original turn roofing made the same as it was, but there is a company and some products that are turn-coated stainless steel roofing.
Absolutely.
Is that something you looked into?
The reason why the turn coating of days gone by is no longer used is because it was heavily coated with lead product and it's poisonous. And so that's why that industry failed. And there are newer versions of it, and there are actually a number of companies that produce that.
So that was an interesting alternative. And then I guess my other question is, for you, Mr. Towers, why would we not go back to the original cedar shake if that was an option?
So I don't see it as a cedar shake roof. I see that as the edging underneath the turn coating. I don't think there's an entire cedar shake roof. I could end up being wrong, but I don't think it's there.
But do you think it was originally?
So I think what is important to consider is that the owner, Mr. Taylor, was an unusually prosperous black resident citizen in Annapolis. He owned the coffin shop next door. He owned the Galilean Hall. He owned multiple properties. In a way, he was like a developer within that neighborhood. So it's uncertain if the roof that is on the house now was there when the family still owned it. But what I am certain of is that the material that is proposed to replace it is not similar. It's different.
What we're talking about when you say that is this new turn-coated stainless steel? Is that what you're talking about?
So that is, what is it called? Freedom Gray. And it's what's on Middleton's roof. It's typically not painted. I mean, why would you paint it? It comes at a super premium.
Turns gray itself, is that?
Right.
Okay.
And it's not painted. And really, Middleton's roof probably, because you can't get turn coated, but Middleton's for the last 120 years prior to the installation of the asbestos roofing that was on it, those shingles. That followed the 1969 fire there. But it had been standing seam painted metal prior to that. It was the inexpensive and let's say lowest maintenance roof that one could have. I mean, certainly we're calling it cedar. It's not cedar. Those shingles are probably cypress. And we've farmed out all of the cypress forests, but cypress is way superior to cedar for roofing.
So you're referring to Middleton's. What is on it now? Is the new
Freedom Gray.
turn-coated?
Freedom Gray, yeah.
Okay, and you call that Freedom
Essentially,
Gray.
yes.
So is that a possibility for this house? Would that be?
We don't typically, I'd hate to recommend using that product and then painting it.
What if they didn't paint it?
Then it's got a different character.
The reading I did said it turns the same gray.
It's been a painted metal roof since at least 1885. So you're changing the character.
By not painting it.
Right, by not painting it.
And what about the option of perhaps bringing it back to a cedar shake or a whatever shake?
I honestly don't know that that's accurate, and I'm dubious. The house underwent changes. The Galilean Hall underwent changes. The Galilean Hall was 2 stories, then it became 4 stories. So I don't know with absolute certainty that the 1885 Sanborn map, which calls it 2 stories, labels it as 2 stories, is accurate, or if it was actually 2.5 stories then.
Okay, I need to, for myself and I hope for all of you, ask our attorney for a couple of points of clarification. In my term on the Historic Preservation Commission, I've never encountered a session where we're reviewing an appeal of an administrative decision. So my question for the attorney is this a situation where we should or must take public testimony? or not? 'Cause
This was advertised, and are any members of the public here to testify?
I don't know, I'm just trying
Okay,
to
I'm just,
know how I want to, or should proceed. So seems like you're saying if people wish to speak, they should be allowed to speak.
well, there were no public comments
No.
that were submitted,
No.
and you polled earlier, is there anyone here? I don't know if you polled for this one, actually.
No, it was the first one.
Okay, well, you can see if there's anyone here after, I would think, that Mr. Tower has a chance to present what he wants to present about his written staff report. Then the public would be able to testify, sure.
Oh, okay. That helps me in knowing how to proceed properly. The other question, though, is actually more substantive, I think, because this is an administrative recommendation of disapproval. Suppose we support the staff report. Does this put the applicant into that situation where they have been denied and thus can't reapply for a year?
That's a good question. They would be denied, but let me check on that, whether they could reapply while we're sitting here. The other thing I just want to, if you don't mind, I wasn't clear, the packet that was sent out, I know that the applicant, one of you had said it was new material, and then everyone said you have it. Does everyone have this complete packet before we just received it now?
The application has a large portion of the
Portion, a
pictures.
large
that are
Not
all over.
everything?
But not,
I think there's new pictures that are added just to further exemplify
That
the
correct?
situation.
It
would
is.
be
The-
best, yes.
The damage, and it was in December, early January timeframe that one of the roofers went back up on the roof, got underneath the sheet metal and determined there's a sheet or shake roof there, took the pictures. We sent those to John in probably the first week of February.
Okay.
I'm just trying to determine whether you all have this complete packet as you sit here, or did you just
I'd have to
receive
I would say
some?
there's a critical
Previously.
mass. There's a critical mass of the similar content.
We haven't received this in its entirety.
Thank you. Yes, okay, okay.
that is what,
Okay, I just wanted that clear for the record, because it does make a difference, but I'll check on the other matter.
do.
You can also, you could decide, instead of just if you were to, I'm not saying you're going to do this, but if you were in a situation where you're going to support the staff report, you could also continue this matter, stating that the application was incomplete and that you need more information, is to tell them what you need. If you want statements from the roofers that they talked to, if you want a sample, as was suggested here, any of those things. So instead of cutting it off and, they can't reapply for a year, you could, through our rules of procedure, consider it incomplete and get that information directly from the roofers, because there was a disagreement here about one of the roofers and what they.
That's exactly what
They-
motivated
Absolutely.
me asking the question, that it seems like right now, I don't feel like I have all the absolutely up-to-date information that would allow me to comfortably make a final decision. I can say that at the moment, I'm not ready to make a final decision to support the staff report or not. But I think that could easily be cleared up by the time of our next regular meeting for public hearing next month.
Yes, so what I've suggested is certainly something you could do, continue and ask for additional information.
I would agree. I lean more towards the owner than the staff report from what I'm reading so far. And wouldn't mind, I'm no architect, I'm no roofing expert, but any expert opinions to back up what seems so obvious, that this roof is in complete and utter failure, and slapping on a surface, I would agree, isn't going to solve the problem. So anything that can back this up professionally will be most convincing.
We are happy to do anything that it takes. I will say that, not to repeat the things that we've talked about, but putting the goop, as you said, or the goo on top of a 1950 roof, the historical efficacy of that. We've been in this process since October. or September of last year. It's now June. That's now 9 months of water damage on our house because of the rusted roof. And the continuance and the continued delay of this just continues to undermine the historical viability of one of the great homes in Annapolis. And we can drag it out. We are happy to do whatever it takes to put a new roof to preserve it. But John talked about George Taylor and his significance here in the community. If you look online, there are structures on our property that went back to the War of 1812 that his family owned. They incorporated portions of a workshop, foundation and brick wall, and wide plank wood floors into our house. And so we're not just preserving a 1950 roof, we're worried about all the material that's underneath that roof.
Well, I'm going to make another little quick statement. At least what you said was very helpful and constructive. But I think the staff could look into that a little bit and provide us with some concrete information about that point that you just raised. But I think some of my fellow commissioners would really like to see at least one of the roofing contractors with a written statement. This is my assessment. This is why I don't think the roof can be repaired. And the recommended solution by the staff is not adequate to survive and preserve the structure. Okay?
I would like to have a discussion on it.
Could I clarify? Let's get it from an independent expert, not someone who has
Taking it.
Like the
stake in
Acromax
the game.
contractor?
Thank you very much.
Like who?
So
Like who? I
here's
mean,
the
like
difference.
Acromax
Here's the
contractor?
difference
No.
between a contractor and a person who's actually done it. I've been on all kinds of roofs, and I have put Acromax systems on, and I have a track record of a quarter of a century with one callback for Acromax. So I'm telling you, it works, even on really neglected roofs.
All right, let me do this.
I have a
Okay.
question. Thanyou.
Please.
So, John, my question to you is, so you said that I want to make sure I heard you correctly. You currently, you believe that there isn't cedar shake under the entire roof?
There was some cedar shake at the edges, which was
At the edges.
typical. You know, it's
But
sort
not
of like
fully.
a wicking edge.
Okay.
And it's not cedar, it's cypress.
Okay.
Right.
Tomato, tomato.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you said that individuals went on to the roof.
Right.
And they felt that it was fully,
They did.
the entire. So what I ask is it possible, because I think that this could be important, if you have individuals that would be able to go upon the roof and see what their person saw? Because if it's not just around the edging, and it is in fact on the entire roof underneath, I think that brings up a different discussion. But I do believe that there is great value in having the individuals who said otherwise to you and support your argument. I think I heard him say one, but I do believe that there is value in multiples, and I do believe that it should be an independent individual that does not have a financial stake in it to assess it to see what are we really getting it back to, and where's the line of demarcation from the original and what could have been overlaid on the original. That's the only way we get the answer to that question, is that we have someone else go and see what's really under there.
I sense that there's a strong desire for further information before we make a final determination.
Interject, I'm sorry,
course.
just for a moment. I do think you should hear from, I think there was an indication earlier that Mr. Tower would like to present on his staff report. Oh, I don't know if you were going to.
No,
move
where I
forward.
was going was to
Okay.
say that he should have an opportunity to do that, and then we'll see if there's any members of the public that want to provide testimony. And after that, I would be willing to entertain a motion.
I'd like to have a discussion before we do, but,
Well,
We got
yeah,
to have
that's-
a motion before you have the discussion.
oh, I thought you meant a motion for a vote.
Can I make one quick point?
Oh, no, I don't think we're voting tonight.
No, we're not there. We want to, John, do you want to make a,
She's certainly she's fine to speak. Go ahead.
Can I make a quick point? Rough Roofers was our independent. We do not have a contract. I don't even have a price quote from them. I asked them to come over after the other two had. I asked them after we got John's denial letter to come over, and I'm happy to get a letter from them, but they are independent at this point. We do not have a contract. We don't even have a price quote from them. So I don't know what kind of.
Well, I must say that the email that I got from him seemed like he had a point to make, and I've worked with him many times, and I don't know of Rough Roofers doing Acromax. They're new roof guys. That's who they are, and they do very nice work. They did 260 King George Street, gorgeous. You know, looks lovely. Middleton Tavern, looks lovely. Pecca House, looks lovely. New. They're all new. They did the state office building at the corner of College and Bladen. You know, huge projects.
Do you not like Mr.
No, right. He's fine, but he likes his projects.
Well, let's hear the staff. Let's hear the staff report.
John, a report.
Okay.
Give us the background to your written report.
First of all, for those of you who don't know, I was a contractor for a long time, decades. And there was a long-standing problem with keeping turn-coated roofs painted. And a lot of the roofers would be happy to come and scrape and coat with something called Douglas maintenance paint. And they would add things like other oils and so on. But it didn't last. And I was trying to find a solution, and this is a quarter of a century ago, and another contractor said, you really should try Acromax. I did these roofs in it. And he showed me all the different roofs and showed me the process. And so the elastomeric coating was better than linseed oil and Douglas and that everyone had used for so long. Also, it encapsulated everything. So if you had a roof that had lead on it, then this would encapsulate it. And a lot of older roofs do have lead. There's no question. So went from the simple coatings to learning about their fabric system and applying fabric to really degraded roofs, and then applying the elastomeric coating on top. And so I've had tremendous success professionally with it. I know that it's virtually imperceptible from paint, and it maintains the original roof. And the roofs have character. This occurs over time. They're not perfectly regular. They're irregular. They have quirks, and it's in the installation, and you see that. So that's what we're trying to preserve here. We're trying to preserve something that is irregular and something that still has life, but needs care.
Eric?
When the original metal turned roof, which was lead-coated tin, correct?
It's not lead. That was a misnomer. It's okay. Let's go on.
But the original, when that was put in, did they paint that immediately?
Sometimes not. There were superstitions amongst roofers that if you let it age a little, the paint would stick better.
But it was waterproof when it was put in, the metal.
It's a barrier. You can neglect these roofs for long periods of time, and they still do their job to shed water and protect the house, the structure.
Okay. I'd like to know if there are any members of the public that want to speak on this matter. I knew you were waiting back there.
Well, actually, I came for something else, but I'm moved. I'm sorry. My name is John Richards. I live at 120 Duke of Gloucester Street, and I also own a rental property with a metal roof at 122 Duke of Gloucester Street. I have a lot of experience.
Before you say more.
Yep.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Thank you. Continue.
I have as much empathy and experience with the same kind of issues that these applicants are experiencing as I think anybody. I've got a roof with the original cedar roof where they come from Williamsburg to count the nails. And so one thing that I wanted to just say to you all is, in my experience, roofs are really important, and it's important to get it right. It's hard to get it right. I had a roofing client of mine who I got along brilliantly with for 20 years and represented him on numerous cases. And he came and he wanted to do a completely inappropriate roofing job on 120 Duke of Gloucester Street, and I had to reject that. So believe me, I know that it is very frustrating dealing with the various different things that come at you on roofs. I did read the appeal, which seemed very compelling to me when I came. I just did it because I was going to come here and I might as well know what's going on. And I really have no position on that. What I do want to urge to you all, and I did this before a couple of years ago, we in the public have no idea what John's report says because it's not posted. All we have is the application or the appeal. We don't have the staff's report to consider ourselves and to consider whether we have a position to make about it. I think you owe it to yourselves. I think you owe it to the staff, and I think you owe it to the public to make those staff reports available on the agenda with a link so we can see them before we come and make foolish comments like I'm making right now. Anyway, thank you very much.
Well, that's agreed and was discussed today.
Yeah, the current mayor is trying to make improvements of that kind to the transparency of city operations. We do not have any authority. I don't have any authority to make it happen, but I will certainly discuss it if asked.
Thank you.
Okay.
Chair, if you wish, I can go back, or if you want to wait till after questions, I'll come back with the answer that I promised you about whether the denial would trigger. Okay, whenever you're ready.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak about this matter? You were so far back there and so quiet. Please identify yourself first.
Okay. Hi, I'm Liz Lynn Moore. I'm a recent graduate of Wellesley College with a degree in architecture. And yes.
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Huh? Oh, address for the record, please. I always forget that. Your address.
What do I have to say? I'm sorry.
Your home address.
Oh, I live at 620 Rollingdale Road, Annapolis. I think I wanted to ask some questions because I'm very curious about this process and very, it's very exciting to hear all of this knowledge about my hometown's very, so I just wanted to engage a little bit and ask a question. I'm wondering about the owners, their worries about mold potentially and water damage. And I was wondering about how the commission would feel about replacing the plaster wall inside of the house versus the roof itself, because I think the roof would be very visible to the rest of the street, but I wonder about the infrastructure inside of the house and how much we would want to protect that and and how much that would contribute to the character of the house if like that would have to be taken out or worked on.
I appreciate your interest, and that was a very thoughtful question. But the interior and the question of mold is really something that we don't have authority over. You have to sort of think of our authority as the outside, the envelope of the individual structure, and then the immediate environment. Like if this house, if they were proposing to put a flashing light on their roof, well, obviously that's not a good idea in the historic district, but nobody else has one either. It's just, it would disrupt the character of the neighborhood. I would love to talk with you. I'm sure the staff would love to talk with you, but at this time, we can't really pursue a number of questions of that kind. It's got to be directly related to the issue at hand, which is the staff report to be accepted and supported, or shall we tell the applicant that we take their position and they should be allowed to go forward? It's kind of a, I don't know, is that a legalistic answer? Yeah, but.
Your question does frame a big concern of ours, though, for sure.
Yeah. No, it's a very intelligent, thoughtful question. I wish we could entertain it, but we already are moving along.
Well, not moving along quite. If I may say, what you need to do, and I'm sorry, I don't remember your name. I didn't quite catch it.
Liz.
Liz. Nice to meet you, Liz. What I would suggest you do is contact Mr. Towers' office, make an appointment to sit down with someone in the office and discuss what your interests are regarding these things.
Or you could tag along for a couple of site meetings. And we have them all the time.
Excellent. Okay, let's get back to the business that we have to conduct because we do have other items on our agenda, and we want to give direction to the applicant as how they should proceed. So you.
Yes, we had, you had asked me about if the application or this appeal was denied, whether that would trigger the application not being able to be submitted, resubmitted within 1 year of the date of the denial. And that does apply, but only where it's an identical application. So if the application is revised in any sort of material matter, whatever it is, maybe it could be anything, then the city could determine it's not the same application, so that 1 year would not apply. And I also do want to say, kind of off that topic, but there's been a lot of discussion about, or some discussion about possible roof leaks and mold and that sort of thing. But just from, on behalf of, from the perspective of the commission, I'm sure even though you've only been a homeowner for a short period of time, there probably was some sort of inspection and you were aware of the roof problems. And so the how long this process takes is certainly not anything to, disturb you or have more of a roof leak, but this process does take a period of time, and that's just normal. This is not taking any longer than it usually takes. So I just want to make that clear for the record.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I would like to have comment before we wrap up here.
You want to make a comment?
To the other commissioners.
Yes. Oh, of course. That's what we should be doing. That's what I want us to do now. So lead off.
I think he
So
spoke.
one thing I want to say, because this is, I think, your first time here, you mentioned, I want to help add a little context to what essentially was just being communicated, and that is that if for some reason the commission decides that they agree with the staff, you would not be able to apply for a metal roof, to my understanding, again, for another year. You would only be able to apply for a different type of roof, which, and I'm not going to speak to legalities, but an example might be you could probably apply for the Acromax or something, but you wouldn't be able to apply
Or
for
the
metal.
cedar,
So,
or whatever side.
and so if for some reason you felt after, and just to be clear, I would like to make a plea to the commissioners because I empathize with the situation, and I think there's some logical approach as well. But regardless of my plea, they might shut it down. If the commissioners don't feel that there's going to be an agreement, you might want to withdraw your application before a
it's
vote
an appeal.
occurs. or withdraw your
can't- he
appeal
can't do
before a
that.
vote
The
occurs.
attorney has an opinion.
You might
I
want,
can't do that.
I would say you might want to consider like withdrawing the appeal so that way there is no vote so that you don't hit a year threshold. And you don't have to do that now, just think about that. If I did something wrong by communicating that, let me know.
I didn't say that. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, the belief is that you cannot withdraw the appeal, but we can continue it. And that was the motion that I am seeking to put forward, that we continue it so that they can get the additional information on both sides.
Second.
So
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I wanted to comment before any motion was presented, but I don't want to interrupt it.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I fully appreciate, obviously, this report, and this whole commission exists because we need to make sure that everything, that our history is preserved and people don't just do crazy things with their roof. When I see this application, when I see the appeal, when I see the staff report, and I read it, every single word, I think about two decisions, or I guess that need to be made in my mind. The first one is, does a roof need to be replaced? And the second one is, if it needs to be replaced, what is it replaced with? And when I asked the applicants what they would be willing to replace it with, they said they would literally replace it with anything required by the historic department here, by Mr. Tower. And so when I hear that response, I hear this is not an applicant that's fixated on some specific thing and they want to change the character. It's somebody who is focused on preservation of their house and keeping it in the character that it is to the best of their ability. I bet that if that same material was still manufactured, they would do that in a heartbeat. I don't want to speak for you, but that's the interpretation that I got. I think the second thing that I think about here is whether or not the roof actually needs to be replaced. And there's been a lot of discussion about bringing experts in here. Personally, I think that would be a great idea, but my interpretation from when I read all of this is I don't need somebody to come in here and tell me that there's a problem. I don't need somebody to reiterate. And when I hear that, well, we're concerned about how it might be replaced, I don't think it's fair for us to incorporate enforcement concerns into our decision about whether or not something should be done. And then when I hear that the other roofs on the street that were replaced were done so poorly, but we love Rough Roofers, they're amazing, they'll do great work, they've done all of the other historic properties, and Rough is one of the companies that they would potentially go with, and they didn't even get a quote from because they didn't want to have any conflict with it. And maybe that's a hyperbolic statement there, but the point being is I see applicants who have been working diligently to preserve their home, who will do whatever you tell them they have to do in a replacement, like to make sure that it is up to standard, are willing to potentially face enforcement concerns if it is done improperly. And I see a roof that has had continual problems here and has clear leaking from the middle of the ceiling, from the sides, from everywhere. If I owned this home, I would be very concerned, but I'm not going to talk about the inside damage because obviously we can't. But the point being here is if we are going to look at applications like this that are incredibly thorough and say you need to come back with more and delay, it completely discourages the exact preservation that we're here to push for. And when I see these potential replacement options, they look identical to the buildings next to it. And so, in my opinion, it would be unfair to the applicants and other people in the city to push this along further, because I feel that there is sufficient evidence presented to us, not only in the application and in the staff report, but in the pictures here. So I know that I might be alone in that, but I don't know that I don't know that it's appropriate to stall it any longer based on the information that we've been given. And it would be my vote to approve a new roof subject to whatever John says has to be done with a replacement.
Sorry, I believe there was a motion to continue.
In a
And
second.
I'm not sure.
No, I said I
I'm
wanted,
not
I
sure.
said I wanted to speak
Second.
before any motions were done.
But I had already.
I said that
made a
before the
motion.
motion and after. And forgive me, I'm not trying to be abrasive, but I said it like 7 times.
You didn't catch the motion? Okay.
You didn't what?
No, I
He
didn't
didn't hear your
understand
motion.
that you were literally making a motion.
Said I make a motion.
Yeah.
But I'd asked to make comment before motion was made.
But the motion was made before you made your comment. I'm just, right?
Yes, I
Okay.
mean, that's the order that it went in, and Eric
All right,
is nodding.
can I say, I mean, this is legal interjection. It's not a matter of procedure. I'm not breaking any
I think
procedure.
I was in the middle of my
But
testimony, though, when it was
But
occurred.
we're not
Well,
supposed to have
because I was
testimony.
bringing forth that there is a motion on the floor and a second. That's what my concern was. Now, if you all don't agree that there was a motion on the floor, then that's fine. But I believe it would be appropriate to have a discussion, but then you were saying you would vote, you were going into how you would vote, but we're talking about this motion. The discussion should be about the motion that's on the floor.
I was making a comment to the fellow commissioners before any motion was presented.
That's what I.
And then there was a comment during my.
Okay, your fellow commissioner is saying she made a motion prior to your comment, is what I'm saying, and your other fellow commissioner is agreeing. I'm just trying to sort this out procedurally. So, Chair, whatever you'd like to do, but these two commissioners are saying that they made a motion and seconded it, but prior to this comment by our commissioner, our other commissioner.
Motions can always be made again, right? So this, I mean,
We're getting caught, and we must, because we must follow proper procedure, or else we waste everybody's time, because now we don't have a valid action. It's my responsibility to be mindful of motions as they're made. So I have slipped up. I didn't realize that was a motion, and I thought you were just being flippant, which is fine. So.
Expeditious more than.
I always appreciate expeditious action. So, is the commission in agreement that a motion was made and seconded? Do we understand?
No.
that? Okay.
Okay,
It's
so
absolutely clear to me.
I
We need to
didn't
vote on
hear
that?
what the motion was, and I thought he was joking. I didn't.
Maybe we're just old and we're, or some of us are.
This is being recorded.
Yeah, we were all
it's being
talking.
recorded.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it
All right, what's the
appeared-
proper way to
I would
proceed?
think you need to, if the commissioner who made the motion does not wish to withdraw the motion, then you all need to vote on the motion.
Can we have a pause? Because I've made motions before and you told me it wasn't time to make a motion. I explicitly stated on numerous occasions I wanted to have a conversation before a motion.
Yes,
And I
you
believe
did
it's
say.
fair to the applicants to allow space before any motion is granted.
And actually, we have been challenged, and the court has denied the challenge, but it is an issue that has been pointed out, whether we have all, for the record, expressed our thoughts before we vote. So that,
And you can continue. There is a motion. I'm making the point that
Yeah,
there
we can
is.
still put a
I'm
motion
sorry.
forward if that's what we want to do.
No,
I'm
I think we
sorry. No,
now-
I'm sorry, if I could. My point is, there's a motion on the floor.
Yes.
The commissioner who made the motion says she made a motion. The commissioner who seconded the motion says that he seconded the motion. So you all can continue to have your discussion, but I'm just saying there's a motion on the floor.
and
Unless
as-
she agrees to withdraw it.
And that's the difference. Even though a motion was made, then from the motion, you go to discussion.
Yes.
Your comment is discussion.
yes.
And then we would vote on whether we wanted to either vote the motion up or down. You saying what you said before the motion it doesn't matter if it was said before the motion or after the motion, because after the motion, there's discussion.
It does matter to the applicants. I had stated before you made the
100%
motion
it
that
matters to
I
us.
felt it was appropriate for us to have discussion before a motion's made so the applicants have an opportunity to decide how they would like to proceed. Now, a continuance doesn't hurt them, but my point is I
continuance
wanted to
does
leave
not.
that space for the applicants. That was my intention.
But one of the
I
things
think
that
they're
was.
being denied any space.
They aren't. And actually, they can't withdraw the appeal because the appeal has already been made based on a decision that denied them. So that isn't an option that they actually have that was stated. However, if it is voted on today and it fails, then you're in the year quagmire and you would have to change it. But if we continue it, it allows you to stay where you are for 1 month, not a year, a month, until the additional information is provided, because although some feel that it's not necessary, there are many that feel that it does. And so I don't think you're losing anything, and you're not, because whether the discussion is prior to a motion or after the emotion, it changes nothing as it pertains to you. And that is what I think is important for you to know and for you to know. It changes nothing.
Well, before we put that motion for continuance, did I fall on deaf ears, or is anybody empathetic to the points that I presented? Because I think that's important as well, because it might be a different motion that might want to be presented, and I don't know it's fair for discussion. Well,
It must be voted on, correct?
Exactly.
Yes, and
There's
there
no way
is
around it.
discussion before vote on a motion, so
because we might have a different motion that might want to be presented, which is what
So then this one would have to fail. That's how you do it. This one would have to fail.
Or she would have to withdraw it.
Exactly. One or the other has to happen, but you cannot get around dealing with the motion once it's been made and
I
properly
don't know that we have
seconded.
a consensus that a motion was made, but I mean, even if you withdraw it, somebody can still put forth
I
a
think the
motion
chair
for
has the
continuance.
authority to say that the motion was made and seconded. And I think that we're spinning our wheels, and this is to the disadvantage of the applicant. Because I think we've thought about it, you've made your position very clear. I think the proper thing now, the expeditious thing to do, is to ask each other commissioner if they wish to make a statement before we vote on this motion. So, Mary.
I would just like to ask a question. Are you able to put like a tarp on the roof to halt the deterioration of your home for a month? Is that a possibility?
We could if we had to, but again, when you think about like the historical presence and aesthetic of Annapolis,
Correct.
I mean,
I
a blue
understand
tarp is
that.
horrible. We've had a house across the street that's had a 20-foot banner on it for the last 18 months. I'm sure everyone's aware of. I mean, those don't do, that appearance doesn't help Annapolis, its tourism, its image in any way.
Well, certainly, but
Right.
also rain
We could
falling
do
in your
that.
house doesn't.
Yeah, we could do that for sure.
Okay.
And so let me say, there's nothing that opposes you taking care of leaks. You can do that
Okay, come on.
without an administrative
Let's move
approval.
it forward.
Well,
Let's
they
move-
need to know.
John, we can take care of that.
Okay.
Eric, would you like to make a statement? Kim?
Laundry here. And I say that, and I think everyone knows I'm an architect. My first opinion is the building needs to be protected at all costs. We don't want anything happening to your house. I also have studied history, and I love history. I was born in this town, and I have multiple generations in this town. As much as I want a new roof, I'm having trouble with it right now. And I'm sorry, I'm babbling. I'm kind of thinking about it as I go. The primary goal of the roof is to protect the building below it. And a lot of roofs, as we know, are sacrificial. They wear, they come down, they come apart, something else goes up, they go to it. The, what's it called, Acromax or whatever it is, Acromax. I look at that and it looks like it's a patch job. It's not a permanent or even semi-permanent fix, because I see it as something that can and will fail fairly quick compared to other materials that could be used, putting the owners and the building in the position they had before. John, I know you used it, and I have trouble with it in the way I feel about
the protecting of the building, because the building, to me, is more than the roof, and right now it sounds like we're going to throw some bubble gum on the roof and say, okay, it's fixed right now. Yes, sir, please.
So when did turn-coated roofs in Annapolis not require maintenance? This is the problem here. It hasn't had the maintenance it needs, and I'm saying it's still viable for life, but you still have to maintain them. And,
Yes.
and what the applicant is interested in is a no-maintenance roof. The replacement is a no-maintenance roof. It's a big difference. And it looks that way, too.
Okay. I'll just weigh in very briefly as I possibly can. I feel that I'm in a situation where the applicant has a need to protect his home, their home. They have a reasonable proposal, but they are not themselves experts. And I would always want to have somebody with professional experience on a matter like this. The staff, who I've grown in my service with Mr. Tower, is knowledgeable, experienced, and if I have to make a choice between the information the applicant has provided and the information that the staff has provided, I actually feel that I have a responsibility and I have reason to support the staff's opinion. So in this particular instance, only because this is a qualified expert who has reliably given me information and guidance to perform my duties, I am going to support the staff's recommendation at this time. So we've all spoken, all who wish to speak to the matter, and there is a motion and a second. I'm going to...
May I ask John one more question?
Yes.
John, how long does the Acromax normally last?
So I'll tell you about my my callback. I did the house on, I think it is 173 Green Street, severely neglected and leaking. 7 years after installing it for an inline gutter, I got a call that they had a leak and went back and fixed it. And that was just about the time that I started as assistant chief of preservation. So that was 7 years, and that was fabric. There was fabric in that gutter. But I would also say we just had one of the worst winters in memory, with a lot of snow and a lot of ice. And one would think that if this were a serious situation, the interior of this house would really show a lot of leaking, not just a little, because snow was freezing, melting. This winter would have tested any roof, and it tested many. So I'm interested in preserving this. I don't want to have the new owners feel as though they've been put on the preservation pillory. But historic houses require maintenance. The windows need maintenance. The roofs need maintenance. This is what they need. This is standard. This isn't a big request. And time has passed.
But his question was, I'm sorry, his question was, how long does that material last?
I said 7. I'll say 7 years.
Okay.
Your application
Right.
says 5 to 7 as well.
And you don't go through the same process over and over again. It's a coating. It's different than the initial process, which is, in this case, would
Okay, so
be
the answer is
major.
7.
Right.
Yeah, we just needed to know that
Right.
the answer is 7.
Yeah,
Okay, so
it's-
I can't call for the question because we have a motion. So we can't call for the question. We can't
Owner
do
of
two things.
Acromax, who came out in an email, he said 5 to 7 years.
5 to 7 years.
So we've got that. Okay. That's the question.
How long does a turn-coated roof last? what's its lifetime, like
If
100 years?
So you'll hear different things. I've heard from roofers, peach bottom slate. Well, that's 100 years. Well, the house I grew up in on Maryland Avenue is 150 years old, and the peach bottom is still gorgeous. So if you maintain it, I think a turn-coated roof could last hundreds of years.
It wasn't maintained, though.
And if it's not maintained, less. I mean, I've seen them rust through, especially on things like outbuildings.
You could say that there's a chance that this situation would represent that, but you haven't seen enough evidence yet. It would need to be more damage inside the house for you to feel like it was at that point.
I've been inside the house, and I'm not entirely sure that what's in the pictures is a leak. I was asked to look at leaks in October, and I didn't really see them. So
These photos were taken in March after some of the rainstorms, 5 months after he was in our house.
So I'm just saying, is it a possibility? Of course. Are there other things that are influencing this decision? Is an insurance company influencing this decision? Is this something an insurance company wants to see happen? Because the standard asks in Annapolis are roof, windows, front porch. And not always in that order. But those, I think, are the things that insurance companies ask for when people buy new houses. Well, what about this porch? This looks old.
I don't know
What
that
about
it's
this
appropriate
roof?
that we introduce that as a
Insurance has nothing to do with it, and I feel it is inappropriate that he
sorry,
would make that accusation.
It's not an
I will
accusation.
interject.
I'm saying this is,
I don't think
Please.
this is a part of this is supposed to be discussion of a motion on the floor.
Yeah.
And this is well beyond
Yes.
anything that this commission could do anything about anyway. It's sort of speculative.
I'm not speculating
mean,
about their roof at all.
No, but you were making a broader
conversation-
statement.
Your speculation.
And I don't believe he was speaking directly for the applicant, but this is just going beyond, he was trying to answer the commissioner's question, but I think this is going beyond discussion of the motion.
Yes.
So, all in favor of this motion, which is,
Continue. Which is to continue so that the presenters can provide additional information as expert information, and that staff can also provide additional information, perhaps be able to get someone onto the roof. But the real motion is a continuance, and it was seconded.
all in favor of that motion to continue, signify by saying aye. Aye.
It's unanimous.
Unanimous.
Thank you very
And
much.
do you feel clear about what it is that
We
we're
do,
asking?
yeah. This is very educational on the process, Rich, but we appreciate your consideration and appreciate the continuance so we can get the expert to testify.
Thank you for your patience and
Yeah.
your
All right, and-
continued
I'm sorry.
effort. And we look forward to seeing you as soon as we possibly can. Next one.
Rather than just a roofer, an architect who is the definitive roofing expert I would appreciate.
All right, and we, just for the record, we're not it's not been our custom to qualify individuals as experts. That's really a process. So individuals with professional expertise is what I would call it.
That's the right term.
I mean, that's what we tend to do across the boards and commissions.
So a roofer or an architect or
Yes.
someone of that nature?
So with notice, I can visit your roof?
Yes.
Okay,
Call us and you're welcome.
okay.
Good, good.
I would get an architect instead of a roofer, since a few people have commented about a conflict of interest.
Perfect. Yep.
All right, and it's,
Thank you for your help.
I'm sorry, I don't want to belabor, it's certainly up to you as to which professional expert you bring, or if you bring more than one for different things, that's up to you. Okay. The other thing I want to say, and I'm sure you've read the rules of procedure for the Historic Preservation Commission, hopefully they're online for these proceedings. You would have an opportunity as well, if there were a denial, if your appeal was denied, to do a motion for reconsideration, so that is a possibility. And then with regards to the year, if there's a denial, the year to reapply, as long as your application differed It could also be for a metal roof, but it would have to be some substantive differences in that application. Now, I'm sure there's room for that, Mr. Tower, for it to still be a metal roof, but there to be some differences in the application?
Pretty basic, but I would say this. So the big discovery would be if you indeed had in every place, you had cypress shingle underneath and you wanted to replace with cedar. You won't get cypress again. Well, you could, but it would be a king's ransom. So if you did want to do that, well, that would be very interesting. And that would be character changing. But if it's there, it would be character changing in an interesting way because you would be taking it back to its original form, which would be commendable.
And which was my thought process.
Okay, we're going to run out of time to hear our other matters.
Okay.
I hope we've
Sorry
given
to
you
take
guidance.
so long.
No.
I would have brought Chick-fil-A if I knew it was going to go that long.
All right.
Yes, happy to help you stay in business.
Let's hope there's no big rain for the next month. Okay. So, (114) Duke of Gloucester Street, Michael Ogle Architects, pre-application. Sorry so long. We got to do what we got to do.
Mark, did you?
What's that?
Good evening. Good evening. If you would just introduce yourselves for the record.
I'm Michael Ogle with ABS Architects, and I am the applicant for 114 Duke of Gloucester Street. Joining me is Mark Hall with Realistic Builders of Annapolis, who is the contractor on the project.
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is true and correct to the best of your knowledge? Thank you. Please begin.
Our location is at 114 Duke of Gloucester Street, also known as Rideout Row. Number 114 is the row house left of the middle or the west end house. We are requesting approval on the following work. The front iron gate and fence reinstallation at the front driveway on Duke of Gloucester Street. Number 2, expansion of front parking paving area in place of a previous planter box, and this is post fact. It's already been done. Number 3, rear basement door, landing and walkway. Number 4, hot tub spa installation at lower level porch in the back. 5, trim back edge of existing brick patio for plantings. This is also post fact, it's already been done. Expanding, number 6, expanding the rear yard parking area with new gravel and adding lighting to the area. Thank you, and do you have any questions?
Do you have any illustrations of what you're proposing?
They've got the.
Was a packet, and yes, we do have illustrations.
You can show to us this evening.
No, I mean, we submitted a packet.
So you do,
Not so sure how
Michael,
this-
you do have an application in, but they're not reviewing your application. They're reviewing your pre-application. So it's up to you to provide the information. Do you have anything on?
Hard copies to
You
the,
have enough?
provided them to Sherry. She asked for 3 copies.
It is in our folder. I mean, that is something, I feel like we should have the ability to pull up what they submit to us on the TV. That's,
Okay, so do we want to go into the June 14th agenda and hit the link and go through the application that way?
Well, now I've become confused. I thought this was a work session.
It is a work session, but that would be the way to look at the application.
I did not look at it at all because I'm accustomed to, in a work session, being provided with all the information that's necessary.
It's typical.
And so I'm confused. Yeah, I thought it was a requirement.
I thought so too.
So I'm really feeling like
We have to.
we have to postpone this. I mean, I don't have anything to work with, even though those who are more technologically sophisticated are ready to go forward. I'm not. And we can't pull it up on that. Yeah.
How is it typically delivered to the screen? I wasn't given any instructions by Sherry or staff.
I regret that greatly, but normally that's
Hold on. It's SOP. It is the same way for everyone. You're the pre-applicant. You provide the information. That's just normal.
Provide information in the application.
No. As a pre-application, this is separate from your application. Do we want to try to bring it up on that laptop?
Do you have access to it via an email, via anything where you can, a Google Drive, where you could pull it up on that computer? Because that computer is connected to these.
I can email it to you if you can access your computer, your email on that computer.
Our workstation at work.
Do you want to try this?
I have it here. I can send it to somebody if you guys have the ability to receive it and present it.
Here, I'm going to open this up and then you can do it. So, Michael, we may be able to bring it up on this.
Oh, yeah, the work sessions are very flexible, but we need the information.
No, but we could just move this to the Thursday work session.
Oh, you mean to the administrative meeting? Of course we could.
I think that's in the interest of time, because I don't know.
Those are virtual, so you wouldn't have to come and wait for, in the same way.
It's a Zoom.
And if you're not presenting materials that we need to touch, feel, I don't see any here today. So,
Yeah, I think that the best procedure is what Ms. Bannon has just brought up, that we delay this simply 2 weeks to our administrative meeting. Then you can discuss with Mr. Tower all the necessary information and how to provide it, and we can review it in advance, and then that meeting should even be more expeditious.
and then you would have your entire presentation.
Between this one and that one, that is all online. That is a virtual meeting.
So it's the 25th this month.
Yes.
If you feel that's the best thing to do, we can do that.
I think that's best, all involved. Okay, I'm glad you agree. Thank you very much.
Ship has sailed. Sorry, fellas.
Problem.
Eric, you've been hiding back there.
Enjoying the testimony.
Was I petulant enough?
We got your very nice letter at my house yesterday, I think.
Yes, I've been answering that letter.
That you had.
Thanks for allowing us to be here tonight. You know me, Eric Lashinsky, Chief of Comprehensive Planning.
I'm Casey Ortiz with Comprehensive Planning.
Alexis Robinson, also with Comprehensive Planning.
So we are, oh yeah.
I'm going to insist. Do you swear that testimony you're about to give is true and correct to the best of your knowledge? Thank you.
You have to all three say. Yes, I heard you. I didn't hear it.
Just getting information.
We're coming back before you. This is a follow-up to a presentation that was provided in February on our Zoning Unlocked initiative, which we launched in fall, winter of last year. So we've been working on this for some time. This is, broadly speaking, a zoning reform initiative that stemmed from our comprehensive plan that was adopted in 2024, which has a wide array of of recommendations for how to advance city goals, and a lot of those coalesce around challenges with our zoning today. You know, zoning that is overly complicated and hard to navigate for the average person, some of it being outdated or redundant. We have 32 different zoning districts for a city that's 8 square miles. And in prior presentations, we shared that we've essentially doubled the number of zoning districts in the last 40 years. From the mid-'80s, we had 17 zoning districts. Today, we have 32. Many of those are really small parcels of the city. And so we've taken a hard look at which of these zones have kind of outlived their useful life, which of them are redundant, not performing, you know, to the way they were anticipated. In some cases, we have zones that, you know, were very well intentioned when they were created, and then they were successful, and the city has changed for the better, and we've evolved, and now we're reassessing. So we want to share with you, these really should see draft final recommendations. We recently issued a report. It's on the website. We sent it to City Council. Retrospect, we should have sent it to you as well. We can do that after tonight. We're going to summarize the recommendations as they apply to the downtown area. But we also sent letters to every property that is impacted. So these are draft recommendations that we are soliciting feedback from property owners on, and we are going to be returning to the City Council in the fall in September after their August recess, share the feedback we received, get feedback from City Council before making final recommendation, and ultimately any changes to the zoning rely on the City Council to take action and through legislation. So that's an important thing to convey, you know, whenever we meet the public, property owners, et cetera. You know, these are recommendations only at this point.
And before he continues, I do want to add, we're in a 60-day comment period at the moment that is going to end at the end of July. If any of you know anyone that is impacted by the project, we do have a community survey that's up at the moment. And we also have a staff inquiry where if you know anyone that wants to ask us questions on the project website, they can reach out to us, and we plan to get back to them within 48 hours or so.
I'd like to ask a clarifying question about that. My wife and I received a letter. We own our home. Does every Annapolitan who owns property in a residential zone, have they gotten that same letter?
Anybody who owns property that is impacted by these zoning recommendations would have received that same letter that's specific to the change for that property. So,
okay. So
yeah.
it is that specific?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what thank you.
Yep.
I'm sorry, could you restate that? Did you say it's specific to the home and not the subdivision?
Specific to the home, to the property itself, yeah. So
Even within a subdivision?
Right.
So you're saying that there could be homes within a 150 home subdivision, and some of them it would apply to?
No, everybody in that subdivision.
That's my question.
It's really just based on the zoning. So as long as everything in that subdivision is zoned the same way, everybody would have received that same letter. So.
No, I received one. I just wanted to make sure all my neighbors did too.
Okay.
I do want to say it's dependent. It's dependent on the zoning, because it's not universal that all the subdivisions, like Wardour as an example, is split zone. So there are a few parcels that are R1, but the majority of them are R1A. So out of the 150 homes that are there, 2 of them are zoned R1, while the remaining 150 or so are R1A. So the 2 that are exclusively R1 did not receive a letter because they're not being rezoned.
So that's an exception, but I would say most of the subdivisions that are impacted, all of the homes in those subdivisions would have been under the same zoning, so.
But in downtown Annapolis, like I live on Prince George Street, there's going to be a lot of variety because there's a lot of variety in zoning on my street.
Yeah, so we'll get into the details. So I think as we look at that, I mean, the main thing to take away from the agenda here is that we're going to walk through the recommendations. It's a summary. And then number 2 is it's not something that's in the report we issued. It's something that is sort of the next question that we're trying to address, which is about, appropriate density for downtown. So we want to get to that. But this is just an overview of our zoning unlocked approach. It's 4 phases. We're in phase 2 right now. The recommendations we're going to share are part of that. And we're moving into phase 3 kind of in parallel right now, just kind of internally. But we'll be bringing that public soon as well in the fall. For each of the phases, we go through a series of engagement episodes where we are meeting with a wide variety of stakeholders and the public, communities, city planning, city council, planning commission, HPC, other boards and commissions as relevant. And so right now with this phase 2, we're here in, actually summer 2026, on the beginning of summer. And by the fall, late summer, early fall, we're planning to have final recommendations. So the website is very thorough, easy to digest, but is really being updated as we go through this process. So you just have to Google Zoning Unlocked and Annapolis, and it'll take you right there. All of these presentations are logged there. Quickly, with the open space zoning, it doesn't have a whole lot of impact to the downtown area, the historic district, but this is an interesting situation. The city created an open space zoning district in 2005 that was really never put to use. That's something we realized. I've been with the city for 6 years. My colleagues here have been, for a few years now, and that's a shame. That was the intent, to put the open space district to use. And so we've made some determinations on how to best do that. And we made these determinations about larger sites over 2 acres, parks, conservation easements, cemeteries, really all cemeteries, 2 Anne Arundel County public school properties that are used as parks through cooperative agreements with the city. And this was really intended to focus on sites that had larger dynamics at play, where zoning, if sizable enough that there might be a structure that a bath, restrooms or something that zoning would have to guide. A lot of the smaller sites in the city are not sizable enough to really be impacted by zoning. The street end parks, for example. So that's kind of why we set this at 2 acres. We also looked at the code language around open space, which doesn't really apply to the wide range of open space sites that are in the city. We are assembling larger areas of conservation easements. This is an example. This is the Maskew Farm that was part of the Village at Providence Point development. There's 100 or so acres of easement that are part of that, including a working equestrian center. And I think the new open space standards that we're proposing would address these types of sites. SPCA is another site that's not conserved. I mean, it's a very large property, it has trails, but it has kennels as well. So, I mean, some of these sites are kind of unusual. We're trying to think broadly about, if we're having to put open space to use, how we should be thinking about it. So that's kind of what this is about. We're making recommendations that the city council could think about accommodating. But really, if we're focusing on downtown and the zoning changes there, 2 of the zones that we've identified are in the downtown area for essentially being consolidated, merging with other zones, the C1A and the C2P. Both of these were created in the early 90s following the Ward 1 sector study, which was aimed at stabilizing downtown, focusing on legacy properties, bringing in investment, particularly, with the residential areas, single owner occupied homes, and that the C1A was designed for that. The C2P was designed to protect legacy office buildings. I'll explain why we think both of those weren't being kind of merged in today's world. So this is a view down Maryland Avenue towards the Naval Academy. This is prime C1A territory here. Larger, this is kind of an example. These are larger buildings that today the zoning only allows for single-family occupancy in the C1A. You can do bed and breakfast. There are a few other uses, but there's kind of a mismatch there. That's really what we're looking at.
But Eric, go back to the photo there.
Yeah.
The two buildings on the left and the yard that you see in the front are all multifamily. And then beginning with the end of the Tilton house there, that's all multifamily also.
Right. They're non-conforming.
It's all multifamily.
They're all multifamily. They're
Right.
kind of non-conforming to the current zoning. You're right. So with the C1A, on the left is the current zoning. You can see the sort of darker pink areas are those areas that were carved out to be C1A in the 90s. Our recommendation on the right would be, and around them is the predominant residential zoning, the C1 in that light pink, that kind of more translucent pink. Everything else really around the C1A in light pink. We're simply suggesting that the C1A zones become C1 with just one exception, and that is, let's see if my cursor is here. There's a state office building right here that we are suggesting should be zoned as P for professional office. It's never going to be anything other than that.
The rest of the structure is also P as well.
That's right. It's kind of a split zone property. So that's on St. John Street across from Mellon Hall. But all of these other C1 kind of, jagged districts here in pink, those are all proposed to become C1. It's a successful residential zoning district. It does allow for multifamily. Our amendment that we're going to talk about later is aimed at improving that, but essentially would bring a lot of these properties into conformance and would be consistent with surrounding zoning. Obviously, the historic district overlay doesn't change. That still dictates everything in the historic district exterior.
So what is C2?
C2 on here is a commercial and mixed use zoning. It's everything on Main Street and a portion of Maryland Avenue and part of State Circle.
And then C1 is single or multifamily?
Yeah, there's a few other, it allows for bed and breakfast, subject to standards. There's a few other uses, but for the most part, it's all,
Generally
residential, yeah. But the next slide focuses on the C2P, and that's where that C2 comes more into play. The C2P, you can see on the left in the current zoning, there's a section on Franklin Avenue here, Franklin Street, Upper Duke of Gloucester right here. These properties back up to Main Street properties. And there's kind of an outlier over here on Hanover Street, a single story. We've kind of provided photos in the past. We're just trying to summarize today. But what we're suggesting is for Upper Duke of Gloucester, these properties here, and just there's one property across the street that's a law office, that those become C2. They back up to the, Main Street properties, so they're kind of consistent with that. They don't have any residential neighbors that would be a conflict. These properties on Franklin Street that were historically medical offices, and that's why they were zoned as C2P, today are all residential. For the most, there's one exception, which is residential and event space that you may be familiar with, but does have an apartment. All of those we're suggesting should be C1 for residential. And then there's a couple properties on Cathedral right here that are offices today. They front Cathedral, which is a office-oriented street. We're suggesting that those be zoned as P for professional office. And then lastly, this outlier here that I mentioned on Hanover, we're suggesting that be C2, which is really aimed at giving it the maximum flexibility to be something. It's a vacant, single-story office space today. Yeah, it's a very odd building. It's a kind of obsolete sort of structure. It needs some investment. The C2 would allow for multifamily over commercial or by right, or multifamily by special exception, just all multifamily by special exception. You could do, so variety of mixed use or residential type uses. It's on a important block across the street from the Naval Academy, so whatever it ends up becoming, there'll be a lot of scrutiny of that, to be sure. But we think it has a lot of potential. It's right next to a large multifamily building.
So, question.
Yeah.
2 Maryland Avenue. Of course, Jonathan Hollander is interested in expanding the one-story to the rear, which used to be a parking garage and was then turned into apartments. And so it's currently multifamily. Would this include that building?
That would be rezoned as C1. I think it's just next door. So that would be C1.
Right across the alley.
Multifamily would be allowed for them to do that. If that was rezoned as C1, yes.
Well, I know he's interested.
Let me ask you a couple of questions.
Sure.
What is the fundamental basis for your decision-making process? Is it to create a useful change to benefit the community? I mean, it seems like I'm not clear on why you're recommending any particular thing, and I'm not asking you to go site by site. In general, what is the crucial matter?
I'll try to answer it, and my colleagues can try to fill in. Fundamentally, this is about advancing comprehensive plan goals. And so in our prior presentation, we kind of went deeper into that. But that is housing affordability. We have a major housing crisis in the city. The densest part of our city has significant restrictions on what can be built, what can be configured here. We're not seeing new development in downtown, but how buildings can be reconfigured to accommodate different types of households, different types of units. We're looking at redundancies, inefficiencies in our zoning map, where we have 32 different zones. Some of those are very redundant with other zones and are not really fulfilling a purpose. So that's part of it too, simplifying the zoning map, making it easier to navigate. But fundamentally, it's about advancing comprehensive plan goals. And I would say neighborhood preservation is one of those goals as well. We're not trying to do something that is going to dramatically change any part of the city. These are kind of incremental changes.
That's what I was, I know because we've talked, that's where you're trying. I have another question. We all know, the average citizen doesn't understand zoning. They don't even know what the zoning is of their residence or their property. So what do you say to any citizen who says, well, what benefit is in their doing this to me, for me?
Well, it varies. It varies from property to property. To somebody who lives in a residential subdivision that is, on the edge of the city, it's going to make it easier to understand where you live, and you're not going to have to, think as hard about if you want to make changes to your property. You're not going to have to, just spend as much time deciphering how the zoning works. It's going to be more consistent.
That's very valuable. I mean, for 35 years, I've had people ask me questions. Well, no, it applies here too.
It would be the same in the downtown area. I think for downtown people, there's another aspect of the comprehensive plan that I should have mentioned, which is we heard over and over again during the comprehensive planning process from longtime residents who wanted to have their sort of local environment back. They wanted to have retail that was catering to local residents and not tourists. They wanted to have long-term residents and not short-term residents. And really, there's a lot going on to curtail short-term rentals. That's certainly happening. But to really address that issue, you need to bring more residents into downtown. And one way of doing that is by allowing for other types of housing to occur. It's in some cases you see, lodging options spring up because that's one of the few uses that's allowed. It can't be multifamily, so it becomes a boutique lodging. That's one of the options that's available. So
Well, the other problem is that some of the people that have been here as long as haven't supported the local businesses that are here or the ones that have failed, and that's why they failed. So I don't. Good luck. I hope you can do it.
yeah, I mean, it remains to be seen if having more people in downtown will really change the type of character of stores that are downtown, or if they're, obviously we rely on tourism to a large extent, but
Help the businesses that have empty space above them?
it would incentivize them for sure. I mean, there's other constraints, fire code issues, and other, the cost of making the renovations, but it would at least give them another avenue to do that. The ones on Main Street could do it today, but in other areas, they might have some more incentive.
Hi, I want to add, so a lot of the as Eric mentioned, the Ward 1 study, which was used to inform the zoning changes to create the C1A, C2A, and C2P, they were supposed to be followed up with a lot of analysis and study to see how the changes in the community in types of housing. So at the time, a lot of single family were converting into apartments or into multifamily. A lot of commercial space was changing and mixing in residential areas. And these districts were created to kind of stabilize and mitigate those changes. But the study and analysis that was supposed to be done afterwards was not done. And as time has gone on, these have presented a constraint in the area in downtown more than they have, they've stabilized it a bit too much. Things have become stagnant. There's a lot of multifamily housing that is non-conforming, as Eric mentioned. And so we are using this process as a way to create more flexibility, create conformance, and opportunity for people in this area.
Well said. I mean, there is one zone that was created in that same era, the C2A that Alexis mentioned, that we're really not changing. We looked at this also very critically. This applies to just 3 properties, I think. 4 properties. One is the triangular building where Cornhill and Fleet Street meet. One is the building that has been under construction for a long time, the former florist at College Avenue and King George. There's a section of Maryland Avenue. And then, it's multiple properties on Maryland Avenue, the block that has the old Fox books. And then this property at the bottom of Green Street, around the corner from Hats and the Belfry right here, we're suggesting that that property alone be rezoned to C1, which would be consistent with the zoning change along Green Street. I mean, it's essentially, again, sorry we don't have the photos in this presentation, but that is a residential character building. It has had, historically, it had I think a doctor's office and an apartment above.
But a lot more than that.
Okay.
I mean,
but today
there's a shoe repair advertisement on the side too.
So
Wait, is this the Hats on the Belfry building or the one?
No, it's the one on Green Street. It faces Green Street, and it's a C2A was designed to be kind of a commercial transition zone, so that you wouldn't transition too harshly from the commercial of Main Street to the residential of Green Street. There was this one property, for example, that was zoned as a transition property, but today it's predominantly residential, and people don't mind living right next to Main. It functions like a residential building. It's appropriate as a duplex. It can't be a duplex with the C2A zoning, though it just seems like a practical change to us.
Eric, some of us that are old enough remember living in residential neighborhoods where there was a corner store. And sometimes on that same street or an adjoining street, there would be your doctor's office or there would be a tailor. I don't hear that happening here.
Yeah, well, keeping these C2A properties for the most part is kind of a nod to that. We felt that they're a very select group of properties, but the intent is that those, we hope, can retain that commercial viability. Well, it's challenging because we're not trying to create new zones with this. We're trying to be selective here and strategic. And with commercial zoning, there's a whole lot of other uses that come with that. And so we're trying to, we're trying to be respectful of the sort of neighborhood that are there today. And by introducing additional retail within sort of more cohesive residential neighborhoods, you sort of introduce another potential conflict in some cases. So that's,
But not only that, like, what is the true demand for that? So, I mean, we can't keep all the stores and the retail in Annapolis Mall, fully stocked. It's always grand opening, grand closing. And I think that those are great, but unfortunately, these big box stores have knocked out your local hardware stores and the convenience stores. I mean, I remember going to a convenience store too. I mean, it wasn't a convenience store. It was just a corner store.
Yeah.
And no, they wouldn't be able to survive with the prices now.
Well, it was a deliberately loaded question, that was obvious. But what I'm getting at is, I think what a lot of people in Ward 1 have really been asking for is a return to that kind of cohesive small neighborhood where there was a corner store and it was convenient and it didn't have to be a big, the big box store is not going to come in.
No, they're not, but I don't see how they sustain it because they say they want it, but do they really support it? That's the problem.
Support them.
So the
Well,
corner,
why so many have closed? Come on.
the corner store is going to need a liquor license.
Exactly. So they can.
And we have Annabeth's, which is
Like the
gift
one next door to
on
Grouse.
Maryland Avenue, and fantastic food, and gifts, and then other things that you can use around the house. You've got to be really clever to keep a store like that open.
Absolutely. So many of the stores on Main Street closed down. Like and they're.
A lot of the stores are crazy, to be fair.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And the rents are crazy.
Yeah. There are a lot of really interesting commercially zoned properties downtown that need new ideas. So it's like to add more, I think to her point, I think there's plenty of interesting commercial properties that could use.
What about allowance for a Ferris wheel? I think that's what Ward 1 said they wanted, right?
That's all.
No, that's what they didn't want. That's what the former mayor wanted.
If the Ferris wheel is at Elktonia, that's fine with me.
A little outside of our scope on this, but this is what we would be ending up with. So on the left is our current zoning. It's this kind of balkanized map, and on the right, it has some more cohesiveness. The light pink is essentially all zoned for residential, and the magenta is commercial or mixed use, and then the darker magenta are those C2A properties, a very few C2A properties that. We're trying to, I would say, retain the sort of patterns that are here today and just really make things more consistent. I think of it as kind of a cleanup effort, really.
If that's your goal, I think you're definitely accomplishing it.
Out of curiosity, and I don't want to go too long into this, is there, like sometime on the horizon, a discussion about modifying the maritime zones to more accommodate how things lay out today? And
Not on the immediate horizon. We did that.
Yeah, I've been there and done that.
When I started,
It's not easy. It's
I
harder
was
than
immediately
this.
thrown into that process in 2021, 2022, and it is not easy. I mean, I think there were some significant concessions made during that to kind of allow for other things on particularly larger sites, but
I was on the
we
original.
didn't have to go too much. I was just curious if it was on the docket in the future.
I was on the original committee that created the zones, and I was on the committee that reviewed and updated the zone. What we're doing here in the HPC is easy.
Right. You see, it's 9:15. It's easy.
Doing the maritime zones, it's just,
Okay.
it's,
9:15.
this is the only, I mean, we might want to defer this discussion given the time, but I just want to say that, you know, even if we consolidate our residential areas downtown to this C1 zoning, there's a significant impediment to actually creating that flexibility of housing options. And that is that this 1,800 square foot module is still the unit by which you calculate how many units can be on a site. So you just take the square footage of the site, divide by 1,800, and that's how many units you can have. And that's, you know, the size of a suburban house for our densest. So you don't really end up, so, you know, in the comprehensive plan, we talked about celebrating, you know, the kind of quirky, idiosyncratic variety of housing that exists in the city today, most of which is not conforming to our current zoning or not legal. You can't build these things today in the current zoning. We have lots of non-conforming, interesting multifamily buildings in the downtown area that don't meet the current zoning. If we want to legalize these things and encourage them, we have to make changes to that C1 bulk standard. And we did the analysis. Casey did some outstanding mapping here to basically understand today the number of properties that could reasonably accommodate a duplex, just a simple duplex. About a quarter of the properties could do that just because they need to be over 3,600 square feet in site area to meet that 1,800 square foot module.
At building space or yard space?
That's yard. That's basically taking the property boundary.
yeah, the land.
So the land square footage, everything in green is over 3,600 square feet, everything in red. And now a lot of the red ones are tiny, you know, Pinckney Street, Fleet Street, Cornell Street.
Was form-based zoning considered?
It will be. It will be. I mean, historic district is like already form-based because of the historic district overlay, but we are going to be looking at that for the rest of the city and trying to get that, you know, sort of. So we just went through and tried to understand, you know, if you look at the number of properties that are over 1,800 square feet, you essentially flip that. So you have like 3/4 of the properties are over. So if you imagine that module being 900 square feet as a unit module, then you have a lot more properties that could be a basic duplex. And we just kind of went down and, you know, you increase the number of properties. If you shrink that module, this is for like an 800 square foot module, 700 square foot, 600 square foot.
Why not go full Brooklyn and 400 square feet?
Well, so Main Street allows that. Main Street already does allow that. You can do units, studio apartments, you know. Well, let me rephrase that. You can do a studio apartment anywhere. It's just, we're talking about how do you calculate the number of units, but.
I'm just getting punchy
Yeah, I
and
know.
asking silly questions.
I know.
And it's 9:28, so we can't afford that.
We're going to come back, I think, most likely in the fall.
Well, also, so we're hosting a webinar in 2 weeks. Hopefully, all of you have seen the flyer or got the mailer about it. We'd appreciate it if each of you came out to it. It's virtual, so it's 2 hours. We'll try and keep it brief. But if you have time to show up and attend, that'd be great. And if you have neighbors that want to attend, that'd be great too.
The question must be asked, though, for these buildings that are eligible to be duplexes, 220 new ones, where do those 220 new cars go?
I wanted to know that too.
Where's that in
Yeah,
the
so
zoning?
we get that. You know, interesting thing about downtown, it's kind of a self-selecting crowd. You know, you don't move to downtown Annapolis if you have 4 cars and
Only answer.
are concerned about parking.
If each person has a car, that's 200 more
In a
cars.
duplex, correct.
You know, what I'm saying is,
Yeah, you can.
No. I mean, you legally can, but what reasonable person? It's like what
Right.
Eric is saying. You decide that you can live without
It's
a car or one car.
people
in a
who come
family.
and check out an
People would
apartment
do that.
downtown and have to struggle to find parking and that bothers them, they're probably not going to come back, you know? I mean,
People do
Or they're gonna be in my
self-select.
spot.
I mean, the amount of people we try to bring down and they're like, I won't do it because I can't park.
Yeah.
we
do need to wrap this.
Yeah, the webinar that Casey mentioned, there's a poster at the entrance here. We've put a draft report at all the libraries, rec centers. We have one right here. We're just trying to get the word out about this. Again, Alexis did a standout job getting the letters out, so the one you received, although it was a group effort to kind of mail them. And we have a very specific way of fielding questions through a staff inquiry form on the website, and we're answering every question that we get.
Doing a great job of getting the word out.
Thanks again, and we'll come back in the fall and talk about this density question more, so.
Great. Well, thank you, Eric. Thank you for the whole team.
Thanks, y'all.
Going 2 ways impact the zoning?
What?
Duke of Gloucester going both ways impact the zoning? We never heard an update from that. I'd
No,
be curious
that's
next meeting to hear an update on that.
Okay.
With the extra cars.
But
All right, is there
Eric, I said 9, but it's 9:20.
a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, wait,
I have a question for him.
Who made it? You?
He made it, I second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.